Hi, my name is Patricia Dorch, and welcome to my channel, 60 and Beyond Life Reimagined. In 2022, I retired. I was 63 years old, and I moved to Mexico. What's important, because plenty of people moved to Mexico, what's important is that I had no children, I had a house, a car, and 2 dogs, and I decided that I was ready to move, that I wanted to go to warmer climate and just somewhere where I felt much more comfortable. Okay? So, in doing that, again, that's the purpose of the channel, just to show people it's possible. It was a gargantuan task that I did in about 4 months, but there was still 2 years of prep ahead of that. So, don't think that it just happened suddenly. I'm going to share with you the schedule that I had. So, that's the first thing I'm going to do, and it's the move to Mexico. Then I want to share with you in another video just what my life is like, where I live, and how I live in Mexico. So again, before I begin, then just some background on who I am, because that's important in terms of how I do this. I worked at IRI, which is Information Resources Incorporated. It's now Circana because they merged with another company. I worked in the project management office, so the PMO, as one of the directors. So I had a project, and typically it's global. So we had a project not only for obtaining data from companies. So I worked on shopper loyalty cards. So that would be anything that you use when you're in a grocery store, as well as new or innovative products that they have that's obtaining data. It's no personal information, but it is information that's obtained every time you make a purchase. So again, that's what I was involved in. So what's important is that it's project management. And as you will see, what I'm going to share with you is the schedule as it relates to what we're doing today, is how I did it and what I did. It appears that it was a sudden move. It wasn't sudden. I made the decision probably 2 years ago, so that requires some research. And there are many influencers that I used or have obtained information from. I joined their programs, their coaching programs, just to get an idea of what do I have to do. What's important is that this is not a sabbatical. This is, I'm going to slow travel. This is, I've made this move, and it may or may not ultimately end up in Mexico, but I thought I would start here. So I will share with you, though, I did travel to Portugal and I did travel to Panama. And again, I will show you all that information. The influencers that have been absolutely instrumental in my life, Sherilyn Winter, for who lives in Lisbon, and the expat app. That was great. That was just great because it was the first time I'm really exposed to people who made the move and are overseas, right? But again, they are younger. And so I thought, oh gosh, is there anyone who's doing this at my age? I just wasn't sure. So then I had Adelia Bourgeois, Picky Girl Travels the World. And at the time that I saw her, she had been to 17 countries. And I know she's traveled much more extensively than that today. Together, next would be Rashida Dow and Stephanie Perry. Again, influencers. They had information for me. In fact, I joined a coaching program with Rashida Dow, and I joined Trusted House Sitters because of Stephanie Perry. I use it actually to help with my dogs, but so I have had people who are house sitters for me in Mexico, and it's worked out perfectly. It's been wonderful. A few bumps in the road, but anyway, so it still works out. So again, I just want to give you that information. And again, the focus will be about how I did it. The first one, how I got to Mexico. What's going to happen next is that I'm going to share with you my life in Mexico. So just videos of where I live, where I have lived, and just my daily life, what's involved with that. So again, this is Patricia Dorch. The channel, again, is Life Reimagined, 60 and Beyond Life Reimagined. And what I'm going to do now is just share my schedule with you so you can see what was involved with actually making that move. Okay, give me just a moment. Hi. Okay, as I mentioned before, this is the schedule that I used. This is the this was a 36 by 52-inch wall calendar. All 4 months were visible, as well as the tasks that I needed to do. I wanted it that way because I would actually cross off days. So for each day, I would go in there and I would look at it. Because I lived alone, it was in the second bedroom of my home. Which is also my dressing room. So I saw it every single day. If not, I would have put it in my bedroom because it is something else. It is a motivator when you're looking at this and say, okay, where am I and where am I on the schedule? So if I forgot to do something, I could make sure that I did it then. So I want to share with you the some of the lists. I actually had obtained information when I'm working with the influencers, right? So some of them had like Delia Bourgeois and I think Rashida Dow, because I had joined the coaching program. They actually had documents you could use as a guideline for what to bring with you when you're taking these sort of just kind of a cursory trips. So that's something that that I had. The other thing is like reaching out to the Facebook groups before you leave. And that way you can talk to them about, or meet with them and talk to them about their lives in these cities. I didn't do that with Portugal, and I'm sorry I didn't. I didn't do it until too late. So by the time I reached out to them, they didn't get back to me until like Thursday, and I was leaving that Friday. So that was unfortunate because they'd had a program, they'd had a get together the night before. So it's an important step in your process so that you can meet other people that are there. Okay, and they will be your community. That's your community. So if you look at July, you'll see again my flights. I had to arrange that, arrange for the boarding and vaccinations for the dogs. Again, this is cursory. There's been a lot more you'll see on the to do, positively, absolutely must to do list. You'll see some of that. I had to renew my passport. It had expired, so I had to do that. And that takes several weeks before I get that back. The flight to Panama, I had to do that. That was an actual guided tour. I love guided tours. Even when I'm on my own, I take a walking tour just so that I can see the city, the country, wherever I am. And also, people provide you with the history of those cities. The next thing I did, so again, you're going to see on the you're going to see on this as well. And I'm sorry if I'm moving too quickly on it, but you're going to see that there are things such as the visa requirements for each place. If this is something you'd like to do. I looked up the visa requirements for Portugal and I did the same thing for Panama. And actually, I did that before I took the tours and before I left on the flights, but I still want to make sure I understood exactly what's required. The next thing is going to be, in September, I contacted the Mexican consulate because once I'd gone to both Mexico and Portugal, I realized this is where I want to be. I I had never set foot in Mexico. I had never set foot in Mexico. There were so many people who had videos on Mexico that I thought, I think I'd like to try there first. And particularly because they had a retirement or they had a senior community. And I said, that's where I want to be. I want to be around people who are closer to my age and see how we're navigating that in another country. My language skills were to be desired. So I still needed to learn Spanish to maneuver around. So I knew that that was something. I decided that that was my job. I'd been learning Spanish since I was in high school. I had no one to talk to. So now I'm in a position where I need to speak it. And so that's something that was, again, I decided I need to learn the language. So that's where I am with that. So what you're seeing is September is that I called the Mexican consulate. I actually practiced for a couple of days and what I needed to say. And I did that because first kind of, they're like, okay, we don't understand you. And they hung up. Okay. So again, I said, they're expecting me to say, make my request in Spanish. And I did. Remember, we're still in the pandemic. People hadn't necessarily returned to the office yet. So I said, okay, great. Now, how am I going to do this? I decided what I was going to do, how I was going to say it. I practiced it, and I called. Perfect. Not only did I get an appointment, she had an appointment for me for all 4 days, for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I think on Friday is when they actually hand out the visas and they, give you your passport back. So I said, okay. I was fortunate. Once I picked the date, they disappeared from my account. So I only had that Monday. So for the next week, what I did was I pulled all the documents I needed. I was told I could see online for the consulate what they were looking for, and I pulled that information. I do understand that sometimes it changes because what wasn't said is I needed my payroll, and I had to provide that later. But in the meantime, I provided a letter from my employer to say that I was working there, working there and my salary. I just again anything they needed to have, my savings. I pulled those documents as well, copies of my statements, and provided that when I had my interview. So that was one. So the interview was on the 12th, count 15 days, 15 business days, and on that Friday, I went into the office and I was able to get my passport back, and they put a stamp in there, an actual full page for my visa. So that was the beginning of the process, and it's called Kanje. So that was the beginning of the process. The next thing I did, again, the month of October, I was on skates. So again, you're going to see that I had to clear out the house. I had to shred documents because that's something personal. That's what I do. I don't know that everyone does that. But I don't like documents around. The other is that I didn't mention that I tried to sell the house in 2017, and I had things in storage for 2 years. I said, I'm never going to do that again. Clear it out. And the documents themselves, anything I saved were documents or photos that I wanted to make sure my family has. So that was something I set aside for the family to help to save, because it wasn't just my information. This was information for everyone. And so I did that. I set that aside. But the other is that it was a shredding party. They actually brought a truck to my home and they shredded those documents. They liquefied them in a chemical. And then for anything that I forgot, because that happened, I had additional boxes that needed to be shredded. I actually took it to the shredding facility. I also had 3 old laptops, and I was worried about personal information being on there. They sent it through their machine. They actually punched a hole the size of a small plate through each one of the laptops. And I thought, well, that's the end of that. So anyway, that's what I had to do. I had to sell the car, and that's what you're going to see. I was on skates. Things such as getting the veterinary documentation, the official certified veterinary documentation. They don't want you to have it, the airlines didn't want me to have it any more than 10 days before. So if I could have done it in August, I would have, but they didn't. They said 10 days, within 10 days of your flying, you need to have this done. So when I went to the veterinary, to my veterinarian, he knew exactly what I needed to do. So that was taken care of. The other was that in terms of, like I said, clearing out the house, things that I wanted to make sure I kept or things that went to the Goodwill, all of that was happening. All of that was happening then. I then had to sell the car. I did that. And then because I knew I wasn't going to drive. And if I did, it wasn't going to be when I first got there. I wasn't even expecting to do that right away. It turns out within a few months, I did feel more comfortable driving. So do I wish I'd had my car? Maybe. Yeah, it would have helped to have my car. So I'm kind of sorry I did that. The other, so some of the other expenses, and I'll get to that. So I had to, again, the shredding was a cost. The what I also did was immediately got mail services, so remote mail services. That's something actually that if I were living in the States, I would still do. I wish I had done that in September, because if I'd done that at the beginning of September, I would have had the experience of it, because I continued to have them send all of my mail even to Mexico. And some of it was junk mail. I could just as easily have shredded it or recycled it. So that's something I didn't need to have. The other thing you're going to see is like, okay, so arrange the flight to Mexico. I had to do that, as well as arrange for temporary housing. So that was a hotel that would accept dogs. That wasn't a problem, and that was great. I was in a great neighborhood where I could do that. Then I needed an Airbnb for Ajijic. Because again, I went from Guadalajara to Ajijic. It's about a 45-minute drive. And so I did rent a car and did that. I went to Ajijic and took that. Something else to remember is I had 4 suitcases and 2 dogs, dog carriers. So 2 suitcases were my clothes. One was for the dogs. And then one was documents. Because, yes, I haven't gotten over that yet. I still kept things in paper. I am now at the point where I download my documents, and then what I will do is shred the documents. And at this point, I don't even ask them to send them to me. I download those documents onto my own computer or in the cloud or a thumb drive, and then I move on. I love it. I wish I had done that in September. Okay. So I hope this is helpful. I can talk to you now. The next video is going to be about moving to Mexico and some of the things I needed to do, such as immigration and having a facilitator. Again, not speaking the language very well. I needed to have someone to help me. Some people didn't need that. I did. And I'm so happy with them. I continue to use them, and I'll share that with you on the next one because it's been amazing and it helps me just in the process. So everyone who helps me while I'm in Mexico. With that said, thank you so much. Like, comment, and share. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.